What's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrifice my time so you don't have to. Folks, you have to look. Just because an article is saying something doesn't mean you have to run with what the article is saying. Always do your due diligence, and if you actually care about the topic, actually do your research in regards to what the topic is discussing in whatever article you're reading. Because not all the time the things that they're saying is outright true. So the trending topic that I'm seeing right now currently at the moment is the value of what AEW is estimated to be worth based off of their revenue. If you look at what they made last year, apparently they were worth around $250 million. I don't know for that to be true, and judging off of what I'm reading right now and all the sources and links that I've just been covering up or gathering up together, it seems like even that could be questionable, but I digress. That's not what this is all about. What I do want to discuss is the fact that they're now being estimated to be worth around $2 billion. Now, obviously, looking at both of those figures and knowing what you know about AEW, if you actually follow their business and analytics and statistics overall, you will probably question that and say to yourself, that makes absolutely no fucking sense. $250 million to $2 billion is a 70, no, I'm sorry, not even 70, no, it's $2 billion. That's a 700% increase in revenue. A 700% increase in revenue. Now, I just want to point out a couple things. Actually, you know what? Let's just get directly into the article in itself, just so I can set this up. Hopefully this video doesn't go too long, because I just want to reference a couple things. So let's go with the actual article in itself. And I have all my links down in the description box below if you want to follow along. Now, I'm not going to read the whole entire article. I just want to go directly to AEW. You can read the article for yourself. I got them in order. So it says number 3 is the spot that AEW currently is in right now, right? It says directly underneath WWE, who are directly underneath UFC. Apparently, as I stated before, their estimated revenue in 2023 was $250 million. They said that the operator was Tony Khan, and their top draws was the Young Bucks, Jon Moxley, and Kenny Omega. I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but I digress. It states that the youngest promotion of the list, AEW, became the primary challenger to WWE when it launched in 2019. AEW got immediate legitimacy from superstars like Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, while a partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling and the purchase of Ring of Honor have helped the young brand build its roster and match library. Now, why I read that for is because that's literally all I got in regards to seeing what they were referencing when discussing how they came to their conclusion as far as how they got that number for AEW. If you scroll back up to WWE and you look at everything that they're saying about UFC, and even then, you don't even have to look at all of that. They have paragraphs that's detailing a bunch of things in regards to both of these companies earlier on in the portion, and a little bit of a synopsis before going into the countdown in itself, right? But here's the thing, UFC and WWE are publicly traded companies. So even then, you don't have to actually look at any of the, abstracts, if you will, right, to kind of get a conclusion as to what numbers they're pulling it for. You can know the research that they're doing in order to come to that conclusion in regards to WWE and UFC, right? Now, we're going to come back to this article because I feel like there's more to talk about, but I want to build this up for you guys a little tiny bit. Now, you probably ask yourselves, how did they get $2 billion? And why do I not believe that, right? Well, check this out. This is one of the articles that states that their overall television deal is over $175 million for the 4 years coming from 2020 to now. Hence why they're now about to renegotiate a new television deal. But between 2020, when they got their actual extension, all the way to now, it's only been 4 years. That's $43 million, around that. A little bit over, but around $43 million, right? I don't have to read the entire article, but essentially what it says is, in January 2020, AEW's deal with Warner Brothers Discovery was extended with a 4-year deal, approximately $175 million contract that included the addition of Rampage for Friday nights. Now, as we get even further into 2024, a new deal has not been signed. It all started in a rather interesting way in 2018. Now, you're probably asking yourselves, Devontae, does that include Collision? Because you're talking about Rampage and you're talking about, Dynamite, but what about Collision? Didn't Tony get a substantial increase because of Collision? Well, see, the problem with that and why you don't see a link down below regarding Collision is because Tony Khan does make reference when Collision first started that he was indeed getting a pay increase via Collision. The only problem is there's nothing telling me whether or not or how much money he made based off of Collision alone. Like, there's nothing referenced at all. He doesn't say anything. Nobody says anything in regards to Collision and the amount of money that it gained from it. Which brings me to my next point, which obviously brings in a lot of questions as to why I don't believe that they've made $2 billion. This is another article that says that AEW estimated to lose $34 million in 2023. This is written December 12th of 2023, only a few months ago, and it's coming from a reputable source, Brandon Thurston. He's the guy that usually gives you the numbers every week in regards to WWE, WWE also, but AEW, WWE as their ratings and viewership numbers. That's where I get my numbers from. The wrestling industry's foremost number cruncher and bean counter, Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, is painting a grim picture of AEW's financials for 2023. According to Thurston's estimations, AEW is on its way to losing $34 million this year. And I quote, "For 2023, I estimate AEW will generate about $154 million in net revenue, an increase from $100 million estimated for 2022, he writes in his report. Which, by the way, I wouldn't be shocked that that's what Collision was worth. That's why I said Tony doesn't tell you anything, but just going off of the fact that they're losing so much money, but just got a substantial increase out of nowhere, that might have something to do with Collision, but I digress. Like the WWE does in their reports, Thurston broke down AEW's expenses into media, live events, and consumer products. Media is thought to be 60% of AEW's total revenue and estimated at $98 million. I estimated any given taping of Dynamite or Collision costs about $650,000 per episode to produce, according to Khan at a press conference in May. Warner Bros. Discovery is paying AEW more since Collision was added as an additional weekly touring event. At a minimum, I believe Warner Bros. Discovery is compensating AEW enough to allow the wrestling company to cover substantial costs from added weekly live event. Therefore, I'm estimating incremental media revenue related to Collision as about $34 million on an annualized basis, prorated for 2023 to $18 million, as there will be just 27 episodes debut in June. That brings the estimated US TV revenue to about $68 million. Thurston estimates that pay-per-view buys have generated $19.4 million for AEW and will pocket $34 million in ticket sales for the year, not counting December's take. The take of product and licensing, Thurston estimates to be $11.3 million. As far as how much is being shelled out to talent, Thurston says, I assume the average talent is paid $450,000 annually. I counted 188 roster members based on the number of people listed on AEW's official website. That brings total talent compensation to about $85 million. That brings media event operating expenses at $66 million and the total cost to be just over $188 million for 2023. Now, this is where we get to the actual losses. Simply subtracting expenses $188 million from revenue to $154 million gives us about earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization of $34 million in losses in that year, he stated. Ultimately, it probably comes down to whether Warner Bros. Discovery wants to continue within the wrestling business. AEW isn't a sustainable business unless it gets a sufficient media deal from Warner Bros. Discovery. Again, that means paying about $140 million per year for AEW throughout the late 2020s. Again, you can read the rest of the article if you want to, but I just wanted to paint out that picture for you, considering what we've been told as far as what they're making or what they're actually being profitable as regarding revenue, or what we're being told. Which, by the way, I won't even say profit. Let me take that out of there. What they're actually being told, or what we're being told by Forbes, what they're actually being amassed as in regards to their estimation regarding their revenue, right? But it gets a little bit better. So I got a link down also letting you guys know. I don't have to read it, but you know what? I'll do it. It won't take too long. I'll do it real quick. Hang on. I just want to point out the fact. So like right here, it's a website that lets you know how private companies work, how publishing works as far as financial statements are considered. Now, as we all know, AEW is a private company, right? Now, I'm painting a picture out for you guys because this is going to all come to fruition as far as the conclusion is considered. If you look down the link below, it points out and it tells you in detail how this works. Only the first paragraph is what you really need to understand, but you can read the article for yourself if you want to. Are private companies' financials public? Now, you should know this already, but if you don't, In short, not in the United States. While many may speculate about the business revenue or look for financial statements of private companies, typically they will find this to be difficult. As the name implies, a private company is not required to disclose financial information to the public. Privately owned companies include family-owned businesses, sole proprietorships, and the majority of small and medium-sized companies. So, I'm putting this out for you guys. So let's follow what we have so far so long, okay? So what we know so far is that they're making $175 million a year, right? For 4 years over. So about $43 million alone based off of what we have for Rampage and Dynamite. There's an estimation that Brandon Thurston threw in there as far as $18 million in regards to Collision, but that's not really concluded. He's just going off of this analysis. I trust it. So let's just take all of that together and say around $60 million, right? Hypothetically. Now, obviously, that's not an actual number I'm estimating, but let's just say that's what they're making per year coming out of 2023. And honestly, you might even want to half that up, right? Because, Collision started in the middle of June. But let's just stick with the number 175 million, obviously, as far as a grand total, and just go with 43 million. If you want to add in the other 18 million, be my guest. That's not my point. They lost over $34 million, right? $34 million. Mind you, we haven't even reached $500 million yet. But they're losing money on top of the money that they're already bringing in based off of their original deal that apparently isn't even doing that much for them because they're losing money. This is what we heard as late as December of 2024, right? You have the definition of what a private company is, right? Even though AEW is a private company, you know now what that means. Now, there's something else I want to do, and I never really do this a lot because I feel like it's a little bit slimy. But I feel that it's actually something that I should probably bring up when actually referencing something like Forbes. Folks, Forbes is not what I would necessarily consider a reputable source, right? Again, I'll have the link down in the description box below, and they'll tell you why I'm referencing this, right? So, scholarly sources are usually written by experts in the fields they are written about. They are usually peer-reviewed and academic articles. They are written in scholarly styles, including the APA, MLA, Chicago, etc., and include a bibliography or reference page. Forbes magazine will not be scholarly source. The information in it about a certain subject may be biased, false, or overstated. It also does not include a bibliography or reference page. The information in the magazine also most likely was not written by an expert, but rather by a reporter who may or may not have interviewed experts. The information is also produced for entertainment, not for education or academia. Lastly, the information in the magazine is not peer-reviewed, so Forbes would not be scholarly sourced. Now, we come to my final conclusion and we go right back to the initial article that I was talking to you guys about. Now, if you want to do me a favor, I want you to look at your screen for a second. I'm going to post this picture right about here. Do you see that right there? Now, most peer review studies, or overall, I wouldn't even say peer review. I wouldn't even say that. Anything worth its grain of salt will always post its methodology. A methodology is essentially telling you how you came to your conclusion whenever discussing something statistically or analytically, right? We want to know how you came to that conclusion, whether you're talking about something that you're sourcing or whether you're talking about what you did as far as, for an example, like getting a sample size, for an example. That's what a methodology is, right? You want to be able to prove how you came to your conclusion. The methodology is no different than when you're in your class and your teacher tells you to show you how you came to that conclusion. Show your work and your homework. And if you don't do it, 9 times out of 10, you fail. Well, luckily, they do have a methodology. Now, check this out. Forbes says how they came to their conclusion as far as why they written this article. Forbes used public documents and interviewed industry and media experts and executives from various combat sports organizations. Promotion values are enterprise values, equity plus net debt, and all figures are in US dollars based on exchange rates for the year ending in June 30th, 2023 were applicable, right? So first and foremost, let's just take that into equation also. They're not talking about profit, right? So for anybody who's running with a lie saying that AEW, this is what they profited, that's why I said I didn't want to say profit earlier on, because look at their methodology. They're not even telling you that that was their actual profit, right? That's what they net. That was the entire net worth of the company in itself. That includes AEW, that includes WWE, or AEW also, but that includes WWE, that includes UFC, For anyone who's going out there, and I'm not saying anybody word for salt is actually saying it's profitable, but for anybody running with the argument that it's profitable, no, that's not the case. AEW is not, they are not basing anything based off of the profits that they actually made that year. That's a lie. But what I really want to focus on is this part right here where it says Forbes used public documents and interviewed industry and media experts and executives for various combat sports organizations. Now, the reason why I had all those links is because I wanted you to go back, right? Go back to what I said earlier in regards to AEW being a private company. You see in that article where it says AEW is a private company and how it says that they don't have to disclose any of their documents, any of their assets. They don't have to let you know anything in regards to how they made their money or what money they made that year or how much money they made that money. That none of that, right? You go back to the methodology and they tell you that they interviewed industry and media experts and executives. So obviously the conclusion is, considering putting two and two together, AEW private company, meaning they did not look at any of the documents that you see right here, public documents, which I'm assuming that's how they came to the conclusion regarding WWE and UFC because they're publicly traded. AEW is a private company, meaning, just have to say this over and over again for the retards and back, they did not get documents from AEW. How? They're private. There's no way. Meaning, the interviewing experts and executives, we can come to the conclusion that's what they did to get their number from AEW. Are you following me right now? The numbers that they got 9 times out of 10, I'm not saying specifically it was him, but 9 times out of 10, they got their number by asking Tony Khan, asking someone within AEW about their figures. So that 2 billion number you see, that could just be any kind of inflated figure to let you know that, hey, we look good if we give you this number. That's what it is. In the end of the day, that's the conclusion. That number, for all we know, it could be real. I don't know. Regardless, it's not a profit, so take that out of the equation. But it might not even be real from that standpoint also. It could just be a highly inflated, manipulative number, manipulative figure in order to make AEW look more presentable. So for the numbskulls out there who are running with the argument that AEW is profitable, no, it's not. They're losing money. Still, going into 2024, we have no clue what their media rights deal is going to suggest as far as how much money they're going to make. They are not making money. They are losing money. They are not worth $2 billion. How do I know this? Because what's the conclusion to tell you that they're worth $2 billion? How do we know this? We have nothing to go off of. Nothing. No fact. Nothing. We have nothing to go off of. All we have is just a bunch of people saying that their whole methodology was based off of interviewing people in AEW. How is that supposed to be proof? How is that supposed to be something worth referencing? And yet you have people who pretend that, hey, we have a W for AEW. No, that's not a W. That's not a W. And I don't blame you people. You're grasping at straws at the moment. But I just felt like I wanted to at least point this out for you guys. I'll leave the links again in the description box if you want to just, copy it. I don't know. Use the power for good, if you will. Okay. Don't abuse it and chase off some AEW fanboy and make them cry or anything like that. I'm just saying this is the proof right here. Don't know how you can argue against it. It's right there, right in front of your face. Let me get the fuck up out of here. I just wanted to post this video. Deuces. P. Ice.